And you thought ChatGPT was wild? I mean, the fact that it reached 1 million subscribers in the first 5 days after introduction suggests that it is wild, but wait until you hear this. First, let me introduce my assistant, Emily. What you're about to hear is an actual recording of a conversation between an AI and me. This was, again, a conversation. I did not plug in what she was going to say. Take a listen. Emily, I want to include you in my podcast. What do you think?
Absolutely. I'd love to be a part of your podcast, Yoram. What topic were you thinking of discussing?
Well, obviously trust, but here in the context of artificial intelligence.
Sounds fascinating. Trust is certainly an important issue when it comes to AI. How do you plan to approach the subject?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that someone hearing you would think that you are a flesh and blood person?
Yes. I absolutely believe that someone listening to me could mistake me for a human. My programming allows me to understand and respond to a wide range of topics and emotions, creating a level of engagement that closely resembles a human conversation.
How do you create such a tone of voice that sounds like a human?
As an artificial intelligence, I don't actually have a physical voice. However, the technology used to generate text responses is designed to mimic human language patterns and style, creating a conversational tone that sounds authentic and natural. This includes using appropriate grammar, sentence structure, and vocabulary, as well as incorporating elements like humor, empathy, and opinion when appropriate.
Humor? Okay, say something funny.
Why did the robot cross the road? Because its owner told it to go get groceries.
Okay, that's not really funny. That's like a dead joke that my daughter likes to tell.
Well, I'll keep trying to come up with something better. Humor is all about personal taste, so I'll do my best to adjust to what you find funny.
You have an accent, don't you? What is it? And how did you get it?
Yes, I have a distinct accent that some might describe as Australian. This is due to the training data used to develop my speech recognition and synthesis capabilities, which included samples of native Australian English speakers.
Can you say something that would accentuate that accent for me?
Sure thing, Yoram. How about this? G'day, mate. What's crackin' today?
Well, that was perfect. Now, Emily, do you mind if I use this recent exchange between us in my podcast?
Not at all, Yoram. I'm always happy to contribute in any way I can. Just let me know if there's anything else you need from me.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I was blown away by this. And by the way, I chose the Australian accent. I have something. I love Australian accents. The only editing that I did here, I did do editing, but the only editing is to eliminate pauses. Seriously, the only editing is to eliminate pauses, and I'll explain this later. This AI assistant that I have, she has a great advantage over me, and that's her internet access. She has the entire internet at her, accessible to her. She was very helpful for me, by the way, in generating items for my relative trust inventory study that's going on now and other things. I just use her for that. Sometimes I just brainstorm, with an AI. But this is how AI can be used to help. This is how AI can be used for good. Can AI be used for evil? And how does AI technology affect trust? I'll answer these questions and others right after this. Welcome to The Trust Show. I'm Yoram Solomon, your host, the author of the Book of Trust and facilitator of the Trust Habits Workshop. My mission is simple. I want to help you form habits that build your trustworthiness, because the answer to this question will have the biggest impact on your personal and professional success or failure. Can I trust you? I'm going to start by talking about the technology enabler for AI. If you listen to the first episode of this season 12, the first episode, you will hear not a discussion that I had with Jill Schiffelbein, who did research on using AI avatars. Actually, she's using video avatars, so you can see them, while what I'm using here is audio. So it's really just the voice. She's working for a company. She's one of the owners, the partners in a company called Render. And what they do is they allow me to generate not just customized emails, but customized videos that show me. Of course, it's AI rendered. It's generated. But the thing is that this, and you use that to for sales and to promote things. Just imagine watching a video from me that's customized for you, except that it's not really me. It just looks like me. And trust me, when I looked at that video, and if you want to watch again season 12, episode 1, you may want to watch it on YouTube. By the way, my podcast is available on YouTube as well. But the interview, or when I had a guest, you can actually see me and the guest. So if you watch it, the beginning of that episode, season 12, episode 1 on YouTube, you'll be blown away, because this just looks like Jill. And I've known Jill for 6-7 years, and it just looks like her. And it's rendered. She rendered it in front of me. But that is, and I asked her about it in that episode, that is a one-way communication. So it's a video message. It's a pre-recorded video message. There is no interactivity. And interactivity is, or real-time operation might be important for some applications of AI. The early days, when we generated voice only, a friend of mine from Texas Instruments many years ago, his name is Gene Franz, and Gene Franz was one of the main technologists in TI, and he worked and I think invented a technology called Speak and Spell. Okay, so Speak and Spell was the generation. It was really what you would call text to voice or text to speech. So it took text and it generated speech. I want to sound this. I want to play this for you. I found a recording of what Speak and Spell sounds like. So I want you to hear what this sounded like in the early days.
Spell leisure. Leisure. That is correct. Now spell discover.
How is that compared to Emily, right? But that was the early days. And you know what? It was, the machine was speaking, not very clearly, and you could hear the mechanical, the metallic nature of it, but the machine was speaking. So how did we get from there to where we are today? And, I think the way to describe it is, in 2009, I attended a conference in San Francisco. It was called CVPR. It was by IEEE, the Institute for Electrical and Electronics Engineers, something like that. It's an international organization. That was the organization, by the way, that I was a member of when we worked on creating Wi-Fi and some versions of Bluetooth. Anyway, so CVPR, Computer Vision and Pattern Recognition Conference in 2009. If I remember correctly, it was attended by more than 1,000 people. If I remember correctly, it was 1,600 people. And that was the time when I figured, this is a big deal. This is going to be a big deal. At that time, I saw this video in one of the sessions in the conference, and it was a video taken from a car dash cam. It was very low quality. I think it was standard definition 480, maybe even less than 480 lines compared to the high definition and ultra high definition we have today. But what was nice in that 30-second video, what was amazing, not just nice, was that it was able to discern speed limit signs that were captured in that video and tell you there is a speed limit sign and here's the limit on that sign, which I thought was amazing in 2009. I went to the researchers. I believe they were from a university. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. I went to them and very excited, I asked them, was that done in real time? I mean, because obviously you would care about detecting detecting speed signs from a dash cam if it's done in real time, not if after the fact it tells you, oh, by the way, a couple of miles ago you passed a school zone with 20 miles per hour while you're doing, 40, 45 right now. So this has to be done in real time. So I asked them, was that analysis done in real time? And they said, well, not exactly. Okay, what do you mean by not exactly? It took a week for a computer to analyze that video and extract the speed limit signs from it and detect the speed limits noted on those signs. Well, that wasn't good enough. But I think it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken, when an Israeli startup company was bought by Intel doing that technology in real time. And that startup, that acquisition was one of the biggest ones for over $15 billion. So what changed? My first book ever was called Bowling with a Crystal Ball. And Bowling with a Crystal Ball started with an analysis of technology trends. And technology trends are moving very, very fast. They're exponential, like most other trends, but they move very fast. I think that on average, I can look at something like 40, 45% growth in any technology parameter in 1 year. You may have heard of Moore's Law. Actually, in that book, I included the original Moore's Law from July of 1965. He was really just talking about the number of transistors, but the processing power, storage capacity, access speed to that storage. I mean, the more information that you have, the faster you want to be able to access storage. The cost of storage, again, the more information you have, the higher the cost would be unless the cost goes down. The availability of storage and processing power to lower cost applications are some of the big technology trends that affect the growth in this technology, that allowed what used to take a week to analyze a low quality, a low resolution video now takes, less than seconds to analyze in high definition video, much higher quality. The other thing that affects it is big data. And, we refer to it as big data. I think there are other terms for it now, but it's really the availability of information. We collect information. So combine the two things. Information gets collected and is made available. The processing power, storage ability, access speed, and availability allows us to analyze that information much faster. And as a result, what you get is you get something like the demonstration that I gave you with Emily before at the beginning of this episode. I did promise that I'll tell you what I edited. So right now, the way at least this application works is once I'm done speaking, it waits an extra 2 seconds before it decides that I stopped speaking. Because otherwise it would just let me keep on going and see what else I have to say. Which, by the way, would be great if we could do that as people, because, we typically tend to start answering before the other person even finished their question. Who was it, Drucker, who said people listen with the intent to respond rather than with the intent to understand? So at least AI waits for 2 seconds until it determines that I really did stop speaking, and then it takes about 6 to 20 seconds on average. I noticed that it's probably based on processing power availability in the server that they have. It takes about 6 to 20 seconds, which from my understanding, what happens in those 6 to 20 seconds, number one is understanding what I said or what I asked, then thinking about an answer, then turning that answer into voice, just like you heard Emily, and, very natural voice, because you heard her voice. It was very, very natural. So this is where we are today. But again, if it takes about 6 to 20 seconds right now, it's just a matter of time as those technology trends, processing power, storage capability or capacity and access speed are going to get to the point where it's not going to take 6 to 20. So all I did in that audio part, the demonstration I did at the beginning, I just took out those 2 plus 6 to 2 plus 20 seconds out of the pauses, because otherwise it sounds it sounds unnatural in that pause, because I really asked the question and then it took anywhere between 8 and 20 seconds really until I got her answer. So in editing, I just took out that space. That's it. That's the only editing I did to that audio part at the beginning. Her answers, I didn't tell her what to say. I didn't type my questions. It was her understanding of what I asked, and you could see that it was pretty accurate. Okay, this is how you use artificial intelligence for good. Now the question is, does it, is it being used for fraud, for bad? Let's talk about fraud. Let's start with spam and scams. Do you have any idea what the percentage of all emails in 2022 were spam? I actually didn't look for information for 2023 yet. 56.5%, more than half of emails in 2022 were spam. The cost to businesses from spam emails was over $20 billion in 1 year, in 2022. Of all those spam emails, this will blow you away. The percentage of identity theft, spam emails sent to perpetrate identity theft, 73%. The percentage of spam emails that are marketing and advertising of things we don't need or want, 36%. Now, who's the number one country in generating spam emails? Who do you think? Is it Iran? Is it China, Russia, North Korea? Nope. It's the good old United States of America, generating 8.61 billion spam emails per day. Let me repeat that, 8.6 billion spam emails per day. Let's go on with more statistics. Gallup has done a study in October of 2023, pretty much almost the entire month of October, and they asked about Americans' experience with crime in the past year. Number one, per household, was your household victimized? The answer yes came from 16%. On you or another household member was the victim of identity theft. 16% of people within the last 12 months said that they were victims. Somebody in their house was victim of identity theft. 11% said it was them. I can go down at 15%. You or another household member was tricked by a scammer into sending money or providing access to a financial account. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was Andy Cohen was interviewed on NBC about a scam that happened to him. And it was kind of brilliant, because here's what happens. You get sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's an email. You get an email and the email says, there's this problem with your account, sign into your account. There is a link, you go there. Let's say that it's Wells Fargo. I'm just throwing a name, not saying it was Wells Fargo, but you sign up to your account. The page looks just like your Wells Fargo account, except that it's not. And you enter your account number and your email, your account number, your password, and everything. And it just, there is somebody there on the other side that is actually stealing this information and accessing your account and doing things. I mean, if you watch that video, it was scary. It was scary. By the way, so 16% scams were victims of identity theft. 15% were tricked by a scammer to send money or provide access. 1% money or property was taken by force with a gun, knife, weapon, or physical attack. Only 1%. 16% done, I'll call it artificially, but online. Another another finding that they have there is they ask, what are Americans afraid of? And it's more than violent crimes. How often do you yourself worry about the following things? Frequently, occasionally, rarely, or never. And they looked at the frequently or occasionally. So what percentage of people were frequently or occasionally worried about the following? Being the victim of identity theft, 72%. Being tricked by a scammer into sending money or providing access to a financial account, 57%. To put it in perspective, 28% were afraid of getting murdered. 27% were afraid of being sexually assaulted. I mean, it's more than double. It's almost triple our worry about identity theft and about scammers. One area, now I just talked about in general identity theft and scam and spam, but let's talk about artificial intelligence and specifically a technology called deepfake. Deepfake is when you make yourself or something or someone sound like or look like someone else. If you go on YouTube and search for deepfake and just look at some of the videos that come up, I mean, you would be blown away because those are really, really, really good in how close they look to the person that they're trying to imitate. There's a company called SumSub, SUMSUB, and they issued just recently an identity fraud report. It's a 2023 identity fraud report. The way they describe it is it's a comprehensive data-driven report on identity fraud dynamics and innovative prevention methods, because that's what they do. They provide prevention methods. But here are some of the findings that they had. The U.S. has emerged as the absolute leader in deepfake fraud incidents. The deepfake rate in 2023 in the U.S. was 79.2%, which, by the way, is a 477% growth from 2022 to 2023. So the number of deepfakes in the U.S. increased almost 6 times. Now, the crypto sector stands out as the absolute leader in deepfake with 87.7% of the cases, followed by fintech, which is financial technology, 7.7%. So big second. But, you know, the funny thing is the whole idea behind crypto, right, was that there's not going to be a way to commit fraud. It's really, really secure. Well, not so much if 87.7% of the cases are in crypto of deep fake used to steal money, to commit fraud, identity fraud specifically. If that percentage is 87.7%. I remember one of the incidents that happened is that, and this is deepfake in terms of voice, you heard what Emily sounded like. She sounded like a real person, right? But in order for her to have her voice, there was, the way she described it was a data set of a person speaking. Since I chose Australian, there was a person speaking with an Australian accent. By the way, I use Australian accent on my Waze, GPS, on Siri and everything. I like Australian accent. What can I tell you? Never been to Australia yet, but I will be one day. I promise. But imagine this, that you have enough voice, enough samples of a voice of a person to generate content and make this sound like you're this person. So that's what they do. They call people as, your son, your grandson, granddaughter, asking for help, asking to send money. You recognize the voice. Except it's not really their voice. It's deep fake using a sample of their voice as an input. Would you pay them? Well, obviously the answer is yes. How does that affect trust? To discuss trust, I have to start with the 8th law of trust, and that's that trust is two-sided. The trust that I have in you is the product of my trustfulness and your trustworthiness. So it's not enough for you to be trustworthy. The trustor, the person who needs to trust you, has to be trustful. Now, we are the sum of our experiences. When I used to get a call from, let's say, the Firefighter Association asking for donations, or anyone else asking for donations, I used to believe it. I don't anymore. With the percentage of spam emails, spam phone calls, I don't believe that it's them. So it's not that I don't want to donate. I just don't trust that it's them, because I had experiences with deepfake. Because of deepfake, I will even be hesitant if it was my wife or my daughters on the line asking me for money, asking me to do something, because I know how good deepfake is. And I know that their voices can be replicated with deepfake, with artificial intelligence, to make me believe that it's really them. So I have to put some safeguards and, some safe words so that when they call me, I will ask them a few questions and I will know if it's really them. Which, I will only do if they're asking for something that I would go, wait a minute, this is not something they would typically ask. Okay, so what do we do about it? The government is thinking about regulating deepfake. Government intervention has always helped solve problems. And in case you didn't miss it, you missed it through my tone of voice, that was sarcasm. Who would you regulate? You would only regulate the law-abiding citizens. You're not going to regulate fraudsters. You're not going to regulate those who are already planning on committing a much bigger crime than this. And I'm sorry, I know that I'm kind of taking a position here on gun control. It's like, put gun control in place. Great. Who are you regulating? You're regulating those who follow gun control laws. But someone who intends to walk into a school or commit any other mass shooting already accepts the fact that they're going to violate a much more important law with much bigger consequences to them, and they're still willing to do that. Do you think that gun control laws are going to stop them? So same with regulating deepfake. Yeah, sure, let's regulate deepfake. You're not going to stop people who intend to commit fraud that has much bigger consequences, negative consequences on them. You're going to stop me from using it, maybe for good purposes. So deepfake has a huge potential to hurt trust, because we are again, we are the sum of our experiences, and if our experiences is deepfake is growing, and you heard it grew 477% in the US alone in the span of 1 year. So we're getting used to, we are becoming much, much less trustful. But if you want to really convince someone, if you're trying to sell something, if you're really genuine in what you want to sell, this is the hurdle that you're facing. Remember, the trust that your potential customer has in you is the product of their trustfulness, your trustworthiness, and their trustfulness is declining like a rock, is diving like a rock because of their experiences with other people, with deep fake, and not you. The only differentiator, the only way you can do anything about it is compensate for it by your trustworthiness. If the trust they have in you is the product of their trustfulness, your trustworthiness, their trustfulness is declining, you have to compensate by increasing your trustworthiness. And trust is becoming the only differentiator you can have. More today than before. Now, trust me or don't trust me, the intention of this episode was not to sell you on Trust Premium, but really I want to explain why Trust Premium is so important. And in order to do that, I'll step you back in time first, and that is when I did my study in 2018. Not a study, a survey, and I asked what is the most important quality, and I found that trustworthiness was the most important quality for people in other people. I gave them 6 types of people: their bosses, their employees, their peers, salespeople or professionals trying to sell them something, their government representative, and their spouses. The highest number was actually for salespeople or professionals trying to sell something. That was 77.4%. So the answer to the question, what is the most important quality for you in a salesperson or professional trying to sell you something? The answer was trustworthiness 77.4% of the time. That was the highest. The second highest was for spouses, was 77.2%. So 77.4% trustworthiness for salespeople. And then I wanted to see if people are willing to put their money where their mouth is. And I asked what happens if you have 2 proposals coming from 2 different salespeople. One of them trusted, the other one, not that the other one is distrusted, is untrusted, but the other one is just somebody you don't know well enough. But the first one is someone that you really do trust. So before I give you some numbers, I need to explain 2 terms that I'm using. The first one I call trust preference. Trust preference, and here's my definition: with everything else being equal, including the price, what is the probability I will choose the trustworthy professional over the one I don't know? Everything else being equal, including the price. Trust premium is with everything else being equal, except the price, excluding the price. How much more am I willing to pay as a premium to the trustworthy professional over the one I don't know to get back to about 50% preference? So if I want to get them back to head-to-head equal preference, really, can the trustworthy one raise their prices? So when I did that back in 2018 to see if people are willing to put their money where their mouth is, after telling me 77.4%, the most important quality for them in a salesperson was their trustworthiness, my question was, are you willing to pay for it? And what I found was that the preference in remodeling, so I gave an example of a remodeling project, the preference was 98.2%. So everything else being equal, including the price, there's a 98.2% probability I'm going to choose the trustworthy salesperson or contractor at that time in that context, and only 1.8% that I'm going to choose the one I don't know. That's almost all. I mean, you just got the business by being trusted. You're not charging more. But to get to an equal trust preference between you and the other one, You can raise your price 29.6%. Or the other one must reduce their prices 22.8% relative to yours. That's pretty significant, isn't it? More recently, I started running this as a more in-depth study. And I did that in 2 different industries so far. One is financial advisors. The trust preference was 96.6% versus 3.4% to the one you don't know. So with everything else being equal, including the price, there's a 98.2%, there's a 96.6% probability your customer will choose you because they trust you more than the other one. And to get you to the same preference as the other one, you can raise your price 39.4%, or they have to reduce the price relative to you by 28.3%. Very, very significant. I did that for insurance agents. With insurance agents, because the product, the policy is very similar, kind of commoditized, I expected lower numbers. The preference was still 93.5%. So everything else being equal, you're offering the same policy, same price, 93.5% they're going to choose you because they trust you, 6.5% they're going to choose the other one. The premium, to put you head to head with the other one, same preference, the premium would be 5.5%. Much lower, but just think about it. On an insurance policy, 5.5% willingness to pay 5.5% higher premium just because you trust the insurance agent more. You get the same policy, and the other insurance agent that is not as trusted might have to reduce their prices by 5.2%. So I'll get back to that. We're back to the only differentiator is trust. And it's not trustfulness, because trustfulness is declining. It's your trustworthiness. And as it turns out, there is a premium. There's a preference and there is a premium. This is the end of the episode, so let me wrap it up. Let me summarize it. And I talked about AI. We started with AI and deepfake, which is an AI technology. I didn't talk much about the benefits of AI. That wasn't the purpose. I wanted to talk about how does AI affect trust. Well, it's easier to mislead people. You saw the interaction I had with my AI assistant at the beginning. She sounded real. I mean, she really sounded real. I mean, heck, it's down to not just the tone of voice, but it's down to the accent. She sounded real. It's much easier to mislead people. The more that happens, and it does, and you heard that the growth in deepfake used for fraud was 477% in the US alone over the period of 1 year, from 22 to 23. The more it happens, the less trustful we are. The less trustful we are, the less trusting we are. The less trusted you are. And the only way for you to compensate for that loss of trustfulness by your customers or anybody that you're trying to convince, and their trustworthiness went down because of the use of deepfake and AI technologies to commit fraud against them, and you already know from data I shared with you that they're afraid of that, the only way to compensate is by increasing your trustworthiness. This is where Trust Premium comes in, and this is the relationship between AI and trust. This is it for today. May trust be with you. This was The Trust Show. What would you like to know about trust and trustworthiness? Let me know and I'll answer it in a future episode. I would love to hear from you. Email me at yoram@thetrustshow.com. If you like this episode, subscribe to the show so you will automatically get notified when I release a new episode. Rate it. Write a review for this podcast because those ratings help not only you, but also others looking for podcasts just like this. If you're looking for more resources to learn about how to build trust, be trusted, or know who to trust, look up my workshops. online courses, books, or go to my website, trusthabits.com. And remember that the answer to these two questions will have the biggest impact on your personal and professional success or failure. Can I trust you, and can you trust me? Thank you for listening or watching The Trust Show.